Price is just a story, but not all stories are true. That line hit me like a brick wall because for years I had been staring at charts, hypnotized by every green candle, seduced by every breakout, terrified by every pullback. I was trading shadows, mistaking movement for meaning, action for intention. But what if I told you that price is just the surface, that the charts you're glued to, those colorful candles dancing like flames, are nothing but reflections, echoes, illusions? Because beneath that surface flows something deeper, something the smart money follows. And if you've ever felt like the market was moving against you on purpose, if you've ever asked yourself, why did it spike and reverse the moment I entered? You've seen that invisible force. You just didn't know how to read it. This video changes that. Welcome to the river beneath the price, a guide not for the average trader, but for the one who wants to see the unseen. Let's start with a brutal truth. 90% of retail traders lose money. Why? Because they react to every candle as if it were gospel. They chase green, panic at red, jump on breakouts, and fall into traps. But here's what most don't realize. Every candle is noise unless it's backed by weight. That weight is volume, and the only tool that decodes that weight with surgical precision, VWAP, volume weighted average price. Now, this isn't just another line on your chart. VWAP isn't like RSI or MACD. It doesn't care about overbought or oversold. It doesn't chase price. It listens to commitment. It asks one question over and over again: where did money actually move? VWAP isn't based on time like most indicators. It doesn't average out 14 candles or 9 bars. It's based on volume. It gives more power to the candles that mattered, the ones where the big orders landed, the ones that made waves. Imagine two identical candles, same shape, same size. One had 5,000 contracts traded, the other 50. Which one do you trust more? VWAP knows. It filters out the fluff and focuses on the footprint. Now think about this. What if price shoots up but it's hollow? No real money supported it. VWAP exposes that. And what if price dips but VWAP holds steady? That's not weakness, that's opportunity. Let me share a quick story. Two traders enter the same trade at $20. One sees a MACD crossover. He dives in, full of hope. The other waits for price to retest VWAP. He watches it bounce, then enters. Calm, controlled. Guess who survives the next pullback? You see, VWAP isn't reactive. It's reflective. It shows you where the market placed its bets, not where it danced, but where it committed. And when you anchor yourself to that commitment, you stop chasing momentum and start aligning with memory. And memory doesn't lie. VWAP isn't just a tool, it's a lens. It shows you what the smart money is doing without screaming. Institutions don't trade like you and me. They don't slam a $100 order into the market and shout, "I'm buying." They slice their orders. Micro executions, tiny footsteps that walk quietly through the flow. And VWAP, it follows those footsteps. If you've ever been burned by a breakout that reversed instantly, odds are you were buying from them. You were chasing the surface while they were anchoring beneath it. So here's the question that changes everything. What if you stopped looking for movement and started looking for memory? Because VWAP is memory. VWAP is gravity. VWAP is the river beneath the price. And this is just the beginning. There are moments in the market that stop time, moments that slap the chart so hard they leave a scar. A Fed announcement, a surprise earnings miss, a candle so violent it makes your jaw drop. You've seen it. That sudden jolt, that flash of energy, that shift in the market's heartbeat. And while most traders forget it, a week later, VWAP remembers. Because VWAP isn't just a line, it's a memory. And anchored VWAP lets you take that memory and freeze it. Let me explain. Anchored VWAP is like telling the market, start here. This is the moment that matters. I want to see every dollar that flowed after this candle. Suddenly, you're not just reacting to price, you're shaping how you interpret it. You're anchoring meaning into the madness. Let me share a story. It was a regular morning, coffee in hand, charts calm. Then, boom. Central bank drops a surprise rate hike. The market explodes. One green candle blasts upward like a rocket. I blink, and it's already too late. The move is gone. Missed it. Most traders chase. But I waited. Days passed. Price drifted back down to the zone where the explosion started. And right there, something magical happened. Bounce. No news, no volume spike, just a perfect snap. That bounce wasn't random. It was the result of anchored VWAP. Because when institutions enter on news, they don't forget. Their orders are still in the market. Their memory is anchored to that moment. And when price returns to their cost basis, boom, they reload. Reload. Now think about this. How many breakout trades have you entered only to watch price slam back down and mock you? It wasn't a bad idea. It was just a bad memory. You weren't aligned with where the real conviction started. Anchored VWAP lets you say, this is where the game changed, and I want to track everything that happened from here. It gives you context, it gives you clarity, it gives you time-stamped conviction. Some of the most powerful anchors, the first candle of the day, the low after a sharp sell-off, the candle from an earnings release or macroeconomic shock, the gap fill that reversed violently. Each of these moments carries weight. Anchoring VWAP to them means you're not just trading price, you're trading the memory of pressure. Because price is like a boat in a storm. It drifts, it wanders. But with an anchor, you always know where it started. You always know where belief first crystallized. Here's a challenge for you. Think of the last big move in your market, a CPI number, a trend reversal, an earnings beat. Now go to your chart, anchor VWAP to that candle. Then watch what happens when price returns. Does it reject? Bounce? Slow down? That's memory. That's conviction echoing through time. Anchored VWAP doesn't just show you where, it shows you why price reacts. It's not about drawing trend lines and praying. It's about marking moments of meaning and watching how value evolves. Because when price returns to these anchored lines, the reaction is often violent, not because of new data, but because of old memory. So now ask yourself, have you been drawing lines based on hope or based on history? Because when you master anchoring, you don't chase the market, you meet it where it remembers. And that changes everything. Imagine you're holding a rubber band between two fingers. You start to pull. At first there's tension, but it's subtle. You pull more, still holding, but now it's shaking, trembling. One more inch and snap. That's the market. That's exactly how price behaves around VWAP, and that's what VWAP deviations reveal. Most traders stare at candles thinking in terms of direction. It's going up, it's dropping to support. But professionals, they don't ask where it's going. They ask, how far has it stretched? Because every market has a center of gravity, a fair value, and every move away from that value creates tension. That center? VWAP. The further price pulls away from it, the more unstable it becomes. And when it pulls too far, it snaps back. This isn't guesswork. It's measured through VWAP deviations. Think of them like gravitational zones. One deviation away from VWAP, that's still within range. 2, now you're getting into extreme territory. High tension, high risk, and high opportunity. Let me tell you what that looks like in real time. It was CPI day. The S&P 500 explodes upward on the news. Volume surges. Price slices through the second deviation like a rocket. Retail traders are screaming to the moon. Twitter is full of rocket emojis. Everyone's chasing, except one trader, silent, watching. He sees the second deviation flattening, volume drying, momentum stalling. He fades it, shorts right into the FOMO frenzy. Minutes later, collapse. Price crashes straight back to VWAP. No news, no reversal pattern, just gravity. That's the power of reading tension, not direction. VWAP deviations give you a map, a measure of how far is too far and when the market is ready to snap. Let's go deeper. In a ranging market, price behaves like a heartbeat, up to deviation 1, down to VWAP. Up again, fade, down again, bounce. It's rhythmic. But in a trending market, deviation lines slope. They guide continuation. They say, yes, we're stretched, but we're meant to be stretched for now. So how do you know when to fade and when to follow? Context, volume, behavior at the edge. If price hits the second deviation and volume fades and price stalls, that's exhaustion. It's not a breakout. It's a rubber band that's run out of stretch. But if volume is increasing, structure is intact, and the deviation holds as support, that's strength. You trail, not fade. Let's anchor this in something real. You're trading BTC USD. Price makes a parabolic run. Second deviation breached. You watch. Doji forms. Volume slows. Order book shifts. You short. Tight stop. It drops like a rock. Straight back to VWAP. You didn't predict. You read tension. This is why VWAP deviations matter. They answer the one question no one dares to ask. Is this move legit or just stretched? And here's the truth most won't admit. Most losing trades aren't bad trades. They're just bad timing. You entered at the edge of the rubber band right before the snap. But now you know better. You know how to see when price is too far from balance. You understand when it's time to fade, when it's time to follow, and when it's time to wait. So the next time you feel that itch, that urge to jump in because it's moving fast, pause, breathe, ask, where is VWAP? How far am I from it? What's the tension here? Because price is motion, but VWAP is gravity, and gravity always wins. There's a moment in trading, quiet, still, electric. It's when everything lines up, not just price, not just volume, but all the layers of the market, structure, sentiment, memory, colliding into one point. That moment is called confluence. And in trading, confluence is power. You see, most retail traders rely on one signal, a candlestick pattern, a moving average, maybe just a gut feeling. But professionals, they wait. They don't act, impulse. They wait for the market to whisper yes from multiple angles, because one signal is noise, two is a hint. But three is a symphony, and VWAP is the conductor. Let me show you what that looks like. It was EUR-USD, 15-minute chart. Price was dropping into a demand zone that had already been tested twice. Nothing special until I looked deeper. VWAP, descending gently right into that same zone. Volume profile, a high volume node sitting exactly at the edge of the level. Price paused. No spike, no drama. Okay, just stillness, like the market was holding its breath. I got chills because when price, memory, and volume all align, you're no longer trading hope, you're trading certainty. You enter not because the candle looks good, you enter because the market just opened the door and said, now. This is the magic of confluence. It's not about cluttering your chart with 10 indicators. It's not about fancy tools or complex formulas. It's about three core truths. VWAP, where average value lives. Volume profile, where traders actually cared. Price action, what they believed and how they reacted. When all three agree, you're standing at the eye of the storm, calm, centered, powerful. Now here's the trap. Many traders confuse confluence with complexity. They stack RSI, MACD, stochastic, Bollinger Bands, Fibonacci, Ichimoku, and then wonder why nothing works. Too many signals create conflict, not confirmation. Confluence is about quality, not quantity. Let me ask you, how many indicators do you have on your chart right now? If it's more than 5, you might be in chaos, not confluence. Confluence means VWAP is at the level. Price action is pausing or rejecting. Volume is telling a story, either drying up or surging. That's when you strike. Not before, not after, but right there when all three realities agree. Here's another truth. The market doesn't care about your patterns. It doesn't care about your feelings. It cares about pressure, about conviction, about memory. And when VWAP, volume profile, and price action align, you're not predicting, you're listening. That's how pros enter. That's how they survive. That's how they win consistently. Let me give you a simple exercise. Tomorrow, don't trade unless you see at least 2 of these 3. VWAP touch or bounce, volume confirmation, high volume node, delta shift, volume fade before reversal, price action pattern, rejection wick, doji, engulfing, etc. If you only trade those moments, you will trade less, but you'll win more because the best setups aren't loud, they're still, they whisper. You just have to learn how to listen. So now ask yourself, are you trading signals or stories that align? Because in the world of confluence, one clear setup is worth 100 false hopes. The market rewards patience, but it punishes hesitation. You can mark the level, spot the setup, see the confluence. But if your entry is off by one candle, one impulse, 1 second of emotion, everything falls apart. The sniper misses. The setup turns sour. The trade that looked perfect becomes another painful lesson. That's why mastering your entry is as critical as knowing the why and where. Because timing is everything. Let me be honest, I've entered too early, driven by FOMO, and I've entered too late, paralyzed by self-doubt. Sometimes both, in the same day. And each time I felt that sick pit in my stomach, not because I was wrong, but because I didn't wait for the market to confirm. That's the key. You don't just enter because the setup looks good. You enter because the market speaks clearly, now. So how do you hear that? It starts with confirmation, not hope, not intuition, not guessing, but clear, observable signals that show you this isn't random. This is structure aligning with conviction. Let me paint a picture. Imagine price returning to anchored VWAP. The line curves like gravity, pulling the candle in. The level you marked is there. Volume is thinning. No new buyers, no new sellers. Then a doji. Stillness. Next candle, A bullish engulfing bar, order book flips, buyers stack. You feel it in your chest. That's your trigger. You don't hesitate. You don't rush. You enter because everything just aligned. That one decision, not based on emotion, but on response, can define your entire trading week. And here's what most traders never ask themselves: how did I enter my last 5 trades? Was there actual confirmation or just a feeling? That question stings. But the truth is, awareness is the first step toward mastery. Let me give you a rule that changed everything for me. Never enter without confirmation. Ever. Confirmation doesn't have to be complicated. It could be a rejection wick on a second deviation touch, a clear shift in delta from buyers to sellers, a volume fade at VWAP followed by a snapback candle, a flag structure that breaks in the direction of strength. It's not about checking a box. It's about listening to behavior. Because when the market confirms, your psychology shifts. You're no longer gambling. You're executing. And with execution comes calm. You're not watching your P&L flicker like a slot machine. You're watching order flow, memory, volume converge. Let me give you a real example. BTC/USD, parabolic run. Price stretches the second deviation. You mark the level. You wait. First candle, indecision. Second, a small rally. Third, a violent rejection. High sell volume, stacked asks. You short. Tight stop. Define target. Not because it felt right, because it was right. No guessing. No emotion. Just process. Now imagine this. What if every trade you took was like that? What would that do to your confidence, your consistency, your identity as a trader? Because that's what confirmation gives you. Not just better entries, but better clarity. You stop needing to be right. You just need to be aligned. So here's a challenge. For the next 5 trading days, take only 1 trade per day. It must be based on VWAP and must have clear confirmation. No emotion, no guessing. Just structure and signal. Comment 1 trade if you're brave enough to try. Most won't, but the few who do, they'll discover something priceless, that the best entries don't feel exciting. They feel certain. And that certainty, it doesn't come from prediction. It comes from patience. Because when you master your entry, you stop chasing. You start aligning. A good trade isn't just about getting in. It's about knowing when to get out. Because here's the quiet truth. Most traders never say out loud. They don't lose because they picked the wrong level. They lose because they had no plan to exit. They exit too early, afraid to give back unrealized profits, or too late, clinging to a loser, whispering, "It'll come back." Sound familiar? I've been there. Watching green turn red. Watching small losses grow into disasters. And the irony? Most of those trades started as good ideas, but they ended badly because my exit was emotional, not structural. That's what separates professionals from amateurs. Pros don't exit based on feelings. They exit based on rules. And one of the most powerful rules you can ever adopt: let VWAP guide both your stop loss and take profit. Let's break this down. You enter a long trade. Anchored VWAP is beneath you. Price confirmed, volume aligned. What's next? First, where is your idea invalidated? Not where it feels scary, not where it looks wrong, but where the structure says you were wrong. Maybe it's a hard rejection candle through VWAP with rising sell volume. Maybe it's a break below the low of your entry zone. That's your stop loss, not personal, just logic. Now the harder part, take profit. Most traders slap a 1-2 or 1-3 ratio on and hope for the best. But pros, they use the market's own tension map. They let VWAP deviations show them where pressure releases. Your TP might be the first deviation above VWAP, a conservative exit, the second deviation for momentum plays if volume supports it, or even a previous high volume node on the profile where liquidity sits waiting. Here's the trick. You define your exit before you even enter. You don't watch your P&L flicker like a slot machine. You execute. Let me give you a real trade. Price stretches up to second deviation. You're watching for a short and get your confirmation. You enter. Stop is just above that deviation. Target, VWAP. Clean, predictable, stress-free. No ego, no panic, just flow. That's the power of structure. Because with structure, you don't spiral when price pulls against you. You don't freeze when it moves fast. This is where I'm wrong. This is where I'm right. Here's a question. Think about your worst exit, the one that still haunts you. Was it emotional or structural? Now imagine you had anchored VWAP on your chart. Deviation bands marked, volume context clear. Would the outcome have been different? I'll bet it would. Because the market doesn't punish you for losing. It punishes you for uncertainty. So here's your mission. Every time you enter a trade, define where the idea is wrong, where tension might snap, and where you'll get out, win or lose, based on structure, not emotion. Do that enough, and something incredible happens. You stop hoping. You start executing. You're no longer the gambler at the roulette table. You're the house, calculating odds, managing risk, taking emotion out of the equation. That's what professional exits give you. Not just better results, but peace. Because there is nothing more powerful than closing your trade, win or lose, and saying, I followed my process. So ask yourself, are you trading to feel smart, or are you trading to follow a structure that works? Because even if the trade loses, if your entry was confirmed, your stop was planned, your TP was mapped, you didn't fail, you won in execution. And execution is what compounds. There comes a moment in every trader's journey when they realize the market isn't their enemy, it's their mirror. Every impulsive entry, every panic-filled exit, every missed opportunity in overtrade, they don't come from the chart, they come from within. And that's why the true power of VWAP isn't just in the line, it's in the mindset behind it. Because VWAP doesn't just show where value lives, it shows how to think like value lives. Let's break this down. VWAP is not emotional. It doesn't react, it doesn't chase, it waits, it listens, it weighs commitment, not noise. It tracks what was real, not what looks exciting. VWAP is stoic. So if you want to trade with VWAP, you have to become like VWAP. This hit me hard during one of my worst slumps. I was taking 20 trades a day, all losses, frustrated, exhausted, bitter. A friend, a fund manager, watched me trade. After 1 hour, he said something that shattered me. You're not trading the market, you're trading your anxiety. That night, I deleted every indicator from my chart except VWAP. The silence was deafening. But in that silence, I finally heard the market. That was the beginning of a transformation. I stopped trying to catch every move. I stopped entering just because it's moving. I waited. I waited for price to return to balance, for confluence to appear, for confirmation to whisper. That patience, it wasn't weakness, it was precision. It was control. And when I looked at my trades differently, I saw myself differently. While others were glued to the screen chasing breakouts, I became still, detached, deliberate. That's what the VWAP mindset does. It transforms you from prey into presence. Let me give you a challenge. For the next 5 trading days, take only 1 trade per day, and only if price touches VWAP with confluence and confirmation. Comment 1 shot if you're ready. You'll be shocked at what you discover. You'll feel the urge to jump in early. You'll feel fear whisper, what if you miss it? But if you wait, you'll realize something profound. Less is more. You don't need 10 trades a day. You need 1 clear moment when the market aligns with your mind. That changes everything. Your entries become cleaner, your exits become confident. But most importantly, your identity changes. You're no longer someone reacting to the market. You're someone who responds to it, calm, grounded, aligned. That's what VWAP teaches you, that you're not here to fight the tide, you're here to become the current. So next time you feel that internal pull, that need to trade something just because it's moving, pause and ask, am I chasing the market or am I letting it come to me? Because when you start trading like VWAP thinks, you stop chasing candles and start following conviction. VWAP isn't just a tool, it's a mirror. And it will show you every day whether you're being guided by your system or your fear. You've studied the charts, mapped the levels, waited for confluence, entered with confirmation, exited with structure. But there's still a voice in your head, quiet, persistent, dangerous. What if this time is different? That voice isn't the market, it's you. And unless you confront it, no strategy, no system, not even VWAP will save you. Because trading isn't just a game of price. It's a reflection of psychology. It's a mirror of your emotional loops. Let me ask you something. Have you ever jumped into a trade too early because you couldn't stand missing out? Exited too soon because your P&L flashed green and fear whispered, take it now? Or worse, moved your stop, widened your loss, and told yourself it'll come back? Those aren't bad trades. They're loops. Patterns of self-sabotage that repeat over and over again. Not because your setup is flawed, but because your nervous system is. Here's the truth. Most traders don't need more tools. They need a loop breaker. And that's what VWAP becomes when you use it right. Unlike other indicators, VWAP doesn't change every candle. It doesn't scream at you with false urgency. It reflects something deeper, conviction over time. It slows you down, it anchors you. It says you don't have to react, just wait, watch. And that shift from reacting to observing is the beginning of freedom. Let me show you how the VWAP mindset rewires your trading. Before VWAP, green candle, get in now. After VWAP, where did real money last commit? Is this move sustainable or reactive? Before VWAP, this breakout is flying. I'm missing it. It's far from VWAP, stretched. I'll wait for the return. That shift is not technical, it's psychological. You go from chasing the market to becoming the observer. Here's an exercise that will change your trading forever. Write down your last 10 losing trades. Next to each one, write the emotion you felt when you entered. Fear, greed, revenge. Now look for patterns. Are you always early, always chasing, always moving stops? Those are your loops. And VWAP helps you break them because it forces you to wait for objective signals, not emotional urges. And when you break the loop, you stop needing to win every trade. You start needing to follow your process. Let me say this clearly. Your self-worth is not tied to your P&L. It's tied to your discipline, and every trade becomes a test, not of the market, but of your ability to stay aligned with your edge. VWAP becomes more than a line. It becomes a tether, a real-time mirror of, are you swimming with the current or against it? Because every time you chase price far from VWAP, you're drifting from center. Every time you align with anchored VWAP, you're returning home. So ask yourself, what would your trading look like if your default was stillness, not urgency? What if you trusted the tension to build before you acted? That's what it means to be in the zone, not emotionally detached, but emotionally disciplined. Because when your execution merges with your edge and your edge merges with your psychology, that's when trading becomes effortless. And here's the best part. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to return. Return to VWAP, return to clarity, return to yourself. It's 9:31 a.m. on Wall Street. A single institutional order hits the system. Buy $45 million worth of AAPL by 11 a.m. No panic, no urgency, no breakout alerts, just a quiet command executed with surgical precision. So how do they do it? They don't use MACD. They don't wait for a bullish engulfing. They don't draw trend lines or look for cup and handle patterns. They load up a VWAP algorithm and then they disappear into the flow. The reality retail traders don't see VWAP isn't just a line. It's a strategy. It's a stealth tactic. It's how institutions operate without leaving footprints. And if you want to stop being hunted by thinking like one, when a VWAP algorithm receives an order, it slices that order into micro executions, tiny trades spaced across time intervals, spreading out the pressure. If volume increases, the algo speeds up. If volume fades, it waits. No emotion, no guessing, just logic. Just like VWAP itself, the algo follows weight, not hype. And while retail traders are chasing a candle, the algo is feeding them liquidity, buying from their panic, selling into their hope. Let that sink in. When you buy the breakout, you might be selling to the algo. When you sell in fear, you're filling their buy orders at a discount. The algo's goal is invisibility, and VWAP is its cloak. How you compete. You don't need $45 million, you just need to mirror the behavior. That means enter near VWAP where liquidity is thick, fade extreme deviations where retail panic creates inefficiency. Wait for volume context, not chart patterns. It means building a process so consistent, you start to feel less like a trader and more like a machine. Algo mode exercise tomorrow. Pretend you're a VWAP algorithm. Your rules. 1. Only trade within 30% of VWAP. Only enter after volume confirms direction. 3. Maximum 2 trades per session. 4. Exit at VWAP or next deviation. 5. No exceptions, no emotion, just process. It might feel boring, but that's the point. The best traders are boring, ruthlessly consistent, emotionally still. The final evolution. This is the transformation. From instinct to system. From emotion to automation. Because the algos don't win by being smarter, they win by being consistent. But here's the twist. You have one advantage they don't: intuition. Combine that human intuition with algorithmic structure and you become something powerful, dangerous. So next time you feel the urge to chase a candle, to jump in because it's moving fast, ask yourself, would a $100 mem VWAP bot click here? If the answer is no, then neither should you. It was a Tuesday. Quiet, no news, no hype, just another sleepy morning in the markets. I had promised myself no trades today unless it's perfect. And for hours, nothing happened. Just sideways drift, boring, forgettable. But then something shifted. BTC was approaching a level I had marked days ago, an anchored VWAP from a massive breakdown, the kind of move that leaves a scar on the chart. Price had been climbing all morning, but it wasn't impulsive, it was controlled, like someone was walking it up on purpose. Volume was rising, but calmly. No wild wicks, no panic. Just a steady, deliberate drift toward that VWAP anchor. I sat up, my eyes sharpened, my heart strangely didn't race. This was different. The level came into view, and then, snap. One candle pierced it, a sharp wick, immediate rejection. The volume on that candle? Heavy. Order book? Flipped. Sellers stacked. Buyers disappeared. That was it. This is the trade. Mouse click, short position, stop just above the rejection wick. Take profit, back to VWAP. No hesitation, no doubt, just clarity. Price danced for a moment, small rally, then another rejection, and then the slide. Smooth, relentless, like gravity taking over. 10 minutes later, TP hit, done. Flat, peaceful. But here's what mattered most. I felt nothing. No adrenaline, no regret, no internal storm, just stillness. I watched the trade, but I didn't chase it, I didn't force it, I let it come to me. And in that moment, I understood something I'd never fully felt before. This is how institutions trade: detached, deliberate, dangerous. I didn't need to be smarter or faster or perfect. I just needed to wait for one clean setup where memory, structure, volume, and behavior aligned. And it all started with one line: VWAP. That trade didn't just make me money, it rewired my entire belief system. I no longer looked at charts the same way. I no longer needed to jump into every move because now I saw something else. I saw memory, I saw gravity, I saw flow, and more importantly, I saw who I could become. If I kept trading like this, if I kept following process over panic, structure over noise, stillness over speed, and that one trade, it changed everything. But here's what I want to leave you with. This story isn't unique to me. Every professional trader has their moment, the trade where everything clicks, where all the frustration, confusion, losses, and false starts finally make sense, where your entire identity shifts from being a follower of price to a reader of conviction. So I'll ask you now, what will your moment be? What setup, what level, what confluence will become the trade that changes you? Because when it happens, it won't feel like magic. It won't feel exciting. It will feel inevitable. And when it's over, you'll look at the screen, exhale, and say, I'm not the same trader anymore. Comment ready if you feel that trade coming, because it's not about the money you'll make, it's about the trader you'll become. Most traders wake up and hope. They check Twitter, scan headlines, open 5 tabs of news, and stare at candles, waiting for something to happen. Then the bell rings. Price spikes. They chase. They enter. They pray. Some win. Most lose. All feel chaos. Because without structure, trading becomes a casino. But what if your trading day didn't start with anxiety? What if it began with a ritual, a calm, deliberate practice that aligned your mind, your method, and your momentum every single day? This is where VWAP becomes more than an indicator. It becomes your anchor, your compass, your discipline. The ritual before the open. You sit down, no noise, no charts yet. You review the macro context. Any news that shifts sentiment? CPI coming? Fed day? What kind of emotion is in the air? Uncertainty, euphoria, indecision? You're not predicting, you're just feeling the tone of the day. Then you open your charts. You anchor VWAP to yesterday's key moment: a big reversal candle, an earnings move, a news-driven breakout, a swing low after a violent dump. You draw your deviation bands, you mark confluence zones, you layer in volume profile. You're not trading yet, you're preparing the riverbed. Writing the plan. One trade, maybe 2, not 10. Your plan sounds like this: if price returns to VWAP with volume drying, I'll wait for confirmation long. If price hits second deviation against structure, I'll look to fade. These aren't guesses, they're vows, rituals, anchors. The open, you don't touch the mouse, you watch. The first 15 minutes, noise, always noise. Let the market breathe, let the institutions show their hand. Maybe price runs, maybe it drops, you don't care. You're not here to hunt, you're here to listen. And then your moment comes. That familiar rhythm, VWAP structure, volume, all echoing in harmony. This is the trade. You enter, one shot, no hesitation, no rush. Your stop is predefined, your exit is logical, your psychology is still, because you didn't stumble into this trade. You invited it, you waited for it, you earned it. The journal. When the trade is done, you journal. Not about P&L, about process. Did I wait for confirmation? Did I trade my plan or my emotion? Did I respect the current or fight the tide? Because mastery isn't through big wins. It's built through ritual, tiny acts of alignment, repeated, refined, reinforced, until they become who you are. VWAP is not magic, it's memory, it's structure, it's flow. When you combine it with a daily ritual, you stop trading randomly and start trading with identity. Your invitation for the next 7 days: build your own ritual. Start with 3 questions every morning. 1. What is the market's memory? Where is VWAP anchored from the last meaningful move? 2. Where is the current tension? Which deviation levels are in play? 3. What is my edge today? What exact setup will I wait for? It takes 5 minutes. It saves hours of confusion, fear, and chaos. At the end of each day, write, did I follow my ritual? What did I learn about the flow? Where did I act from system and where from self-doubt? This is how you transform from someone who reacts to every candle to someone who anchors every decision in memory. You stop hoping, you start aligning, you wake up not to chase, you wake up to return, to VWAP, to clarity, to center, to yourself. Because you were never meant to be just another trader lost in the noise, you were meant to become the current.